Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to kind of explain the whole relationship between hypertrophy and strength. And the reason why I decided to make this video is because you hear a lot of times, more strength leads to bigger muscles, and you should develop a strength base early on in your career. And I'm going to discuss why that's true, why it also isn't true. And the first thing I want to clarify is that there is a clear difference between getting stronger, just in general, and actually getting like max strength up. The way that you train for that and what that actually means is inherently different. Getting stronger doesn't actually equal a 1 rep max on like the big 3 in powerlifting. Getting stronger could literally just mean you did 11 reps instead of 10 reps. This is the principle of overload. So if your main goal is I want to get as big as possible, I want to gain muscle early on in my training career, which you probably should, because this is the time when you can gain the most amount of muscle because you're brand new to the stimulus. You shouldn't be focusing on increasing your 1 rep max when you are trying to build your muscle and maximize that hypertrophy. And the reason why is because we know fundamentally that volume is the main contributor to hypertrophy. It is the thing that contributes the most to actually building more muscle. Intensity, actually the weight on the bar, is secondary to that. So in practical application, in specific terms, a bodybuilder slash somebody who wants to gain as much muscle, such as a power lifter who is far away from competition, who wants to improve their body composition, they should be focused on getting stronger in the 6 to 30 rep range, in higher rep ranges, because that's going to accrue the most amount of volume, which will then equal more muscle. There has to be overload. Don't get me wrong, there has to be overload. You need to be getting stronger. But if you're trying to build as much muscle as you possibly can, developing that strength base within the 1 to 5 rep range, it's going to still grow you some muscle, because we know that hypertrophy occurs across a time continuum. But we basically know from plenty of research that just reps above, like, it doesn't really make that much sense to do a ton of work in the 1 to 5 rep range, because at that point you're taxing more so the nervous system than the muscular system in low rep ranges than you would be in higher ones. And the muscular system absolutely has a role to play with force production, but there's multiple parts to strength, expression, fiber type, how long you've been training that movement for. Are you really good at just performing it? How's your calorie balance? Are you isocaloric or are you eucaloric? Those change things. And hypertrophy is much more simple. Powerlifters, if you want to be a powerlifter, and if you want to get strong and actually improve your 1 rep max, then you should probably train most of the time in the 1 to 5 rep range when that's your goal, because it makes the most sense, because that is specific to the goal. But somebody who wants to build muscle, train most of the time in the 1 to 5 rep range, and trying to constantly overload and get stronger in that rep range, is kind of going to be spinning the wheels and isn't going to be seeing as much of results as possible. So what a practical application of this would look like is that if you want to build muscle, you should focus on primarily volume PRs. So what do I mean by that? I mean that as one single set isn't necessarily a great metric for are you getting bigger muscles, because that's more so strength production and force production related. It's not as much volume as doing a volume PR. So for example, doing a 3x10 with 225, and let's say that's what you're doing on bench press, and then 3 months later you're doing a 3x10 with 245. Well, one can probably reasonably conclude that because the load is higher, we are in the 10 rep range, it is across multiple sets, and let's say hypothetically the same RPE, well, you probably have built a lot of muscle that way. That's much more indicative of hypertrophy than just an all-out 10 rep max on one set and then not having as much, because we know, again, this comes back to the principle that volume is the key driver of hypertrophy. More volume, more growth. Higher rep range is better for more growth because we can accumulate more volume with less of that neural fatigue, since the muscular system becomes more of a limiting factor than the nervous system is in that rep range. In contrast, powerlifters should probably focus more on single set PRs than volume PRs, because that's more indicative of your actual maximum ability to produce force, because that is what strength is. It's a measurement of how much force that you can exert in newtons at a specific moment in time to lift a load. So it's not nearly as hypertrophic as a volume PR would be, though. So keep that in mind. Another really good thing I'm going to just leave you guys with is that if powerlifting truly was really important, and if it was the main driver of, like, you have to get really strong in the 1 to 5 rep range to get big, you would see a lot more overall muscular development in these powerlifters. You wouldn't have like small guys lifting 700 pounds because strength is multifactorial, and it's not really going to contribute as much to building muscle as volume would. So just keep that in mind. But I hope that this was helpful and clarified a few things. I get questions about this a lot. But yeah, if you guys like the video, make sure to like it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.